Hello, this is Michael from League of Items, and in this video I'm going to try to quantify the gold value of each dragon. Now, I'm going to give a ranking in the beginning part of this video, and then the rest of the video is going to explain how I arrived at those numbers. And for the ranking, I'm just going to compare dragons at 3 stacks with Baron buff, Elder, and the Empowered Elder. And the reason I thought of doing this video is because recently Riot changed how Baron gets stronger and Empowered Elder Dragon is stronger than the original Elder Dragon. So it really made me want to look at the gold value of the stats provided by the different dragons. And I think that in general, most people will agree that Infernal is the best out of the elemental dragons, and then either Mountain or Ocean, and then Mountain or Ocean, and then Cloud being the worst. And I think most people would also agree that Baron and Elder are better than all of the elemental dragons. But I was kind of surprised to learn that's not always the case, at least from a gold value perspective. The thing about League is that every single game, an elemental dragon is going to spawn at the 2-minute and 30-second mark. Every single game, that's just how the game works. At the 10-minute mark, you're going to get a Rift Herald, and dragons are going to be spawning every 6 minutes, and Baron spawns at 20 minutes. So it's important to know how much these things are worth when they're spawning, because there's an opportunity cost associated with each dragon or Baron and the amount of time you're spending on it. So when you go into your game and you know, oh, Baron's coming up, but it's also the third stack of Infernal Dragon, which one's more valuable? Like, which one should my team go after? And is it worth trading? A lot of the time, the winning team gets most of the dragons, and it doesn't really show up in the gold evaluation. But hopefully after this video, you'll have a little better understanding about all those things. So here are the rankings. Cloud comes in last, not surprising. It's only worth 237 gold, and this 237 gold represents 6% bonus movement speed. So this is after you get your third stack. 7th place is Ocean, and the Ocean one was kind of difficult. It's percent missing health and mana, and I'll explain the calculation later on in the video, but I came out to about 660 gold. I think that was a fair number. Mountain is difficult to quantify because you do 30% true damage to 30% bonus true damage to neutral objectives, including epic monsters and towers. And I think that it's going to be worth over 660 gold, and between 1,000 to 2,000 gold, depending on how many towers or neutral objectives it helps you secure that you wouldn't be able to secure otherwise. And that's like a huge variable. So depending on the game, it can fluctuate between being the worst dragon to get and the best dragon to get. That it's difficult to quantify. So then next up, which is surprising, is Elder Dragon with one buff on one champion, with one dragon taken. It comes in at 5th place at 1,125 gold. If you get Elder Dragon, but you don't have any dragons throughout the game, you get 0 on hit damage. 0. So it's not very helpful. That's why I had to put the one dragon in there. For Baron buff, it's important to realize that not every champion gets a huge bonus from the attack damage or ability power that you get from Baron. And this number doesn't take into consideration Empowered Recall or the buffed minions, because those things also help you siege. So that's a little bit more difficult to quantify. But here with the combat stats, you get 1,225 gold for an 80 carry and 1,283 gold for an ability power carry. Infernal, an Infernal with 3 stacks is better than Baron buff just in terms of combat stats, especially for 80 carries. So if you're an 80 carry and your team is unsure if they're going to be able to get the Baron, just take the 3rd Infernal Dragon, and at least you trade objectives. And the other thing to mention is that the Elemental Drakes, their effects persist throughout the game. So once you get that 3rd stack, you're going to have that through the end of the game. With Baron buff, you get the buff for a set amount of time and then it goes away. So in that scenario, once Baron buff is gone, the Infernal is just infinitely better because you still have stats from it as opposed to the Baron. And then we have Elder Dragon with over 2 stacks, with over 2 dragons, is worth 2,250 gold, and that's because of how the on-hit damage is calculated. I'll show that later in the video. So I put that above Infernal because it's better for AP carries. It's not as good for AD carries, but in most games, it's going to be better than the Infernal. And then the best is Empowered Elder, and it's ridiculous how much better Empowered Elder is than everything else. This number you see right here, 3,375 gold, is when your team took 0 dragons, and the numbers just get out of control once you have more dragons. But this is the power ranking. I was a little surprised. Elder's a lot weaker than I thought it was going to be with 1 dragon or less. I'm surprised Infernal with 3 stacks was better than Baron, and otherwise it kind of, those are the 2 main surprises that I had. So then in terms of my conclusions, I think that dragons are undervalued right now, especially because of Elder Dragon. Like, sure, the first dragon in the game might only be a cloud, but you need 1 dragon. You need to get at least 1 dragon before Elder Dragon spawns to make it even worth it. Otherwise, it's just a useless buff for your team, and you're only going for it so that the enemy team doesn't get it. So I would say, when you're in a game, even if it's just a cloud dragon, the other team's probably not going to be very interested in it. Make sure you get it, and then if you can get an Elder, then the value is just going to be gigantic for your team. Okay, so now that we got that out of the way, and everyone who's not interested in numbers has turned off the video, we can go through each one individually. And I think that these numbers are a little surprising, and it makes a better argument for some of these drakes than you would think based on the rankings that I gave. So again, I want to emphasize that the dragon buffs persist throughout the game. Baron and Elder have set durations. So Cloud Drake, sure, Cloud Drake did come in last place, but it's still worth a ton of gold on your team. So for percent bonus movement speed, I just took the gold efficiency number, multiplied that, and the value on 5 members of your team at the first stack is still 400 gold. So 400 gold is like less than a half of a tower, but bonus movement speed feels good. And like, I'm always on the opposite side of public opinion. Whenever I say that bonus movement speed isn't worth as much as this, people always say, oh, well, bonus movement speed feels good. And then when I try to make the argument that bonus move speed is worth more than what people think, they're like, oh, it's only like you moving around the map. It doesn't really help you that much. So I'm always on the wrong side, I think. When you're one thing to mention is that when you're in combat, you're going to get 2, 4, or 6% movement speed, and when you're out of combat, you're going to get 6, 12, or 18% movement speed. So when you're out of combat, which is very important for junglers and supports, this is equal to 237 gold at the first stack and 711 at the third stack. So that's actually very good. It helps you move between lanes. If this was on an item, if you saw 18% bonus movement speed on an item, you'd be like, yes, I want that item because that's going to let me get all over the map, and it's going to help me have presence everywhere. The other thing that I did was multiply the gold value on 5 members of your team times the bonus from Elder Dragon. So when you get your first Elder Dragon, the value is 1.5 times, and then when you get the empowered Elder Dragon, it's worth 2 times as much gold. And I just said Cloud Drake will benefit all members of your team, and it's true. Like, it helps you initiate fights, it helps you run away, helps you move around the map, helps you ward, helps you invade, helps you do everything. So it's beneficial, but it's difficult to quantify and compare to other things when you're not thinking about it in terms of gold value. So that's why I think gold evaluations are so important. Next up, I did Infernal second when I was going through this because of alphabetical order. So Infernal, the way that I did this was I took 2 proxy champions and I did like a best case scenario kind of thing. So for the AD calculation, I did Xayah at level 18 with Gathering Storm 30 minutes into the game with 3 items and Berserker Greaves. And I know that those aren't going to change the attack damage, but I just wanted to give all the information so no one's yelling at me. So you would get 280 attack damage. Then you get 8%, 16%, or 24%, depending on how many stacks you have, which is equal to 22, 45, or 67 attack damage. So you take that number, multiply it by the value of attack damage, and this is what you would get. Now, the reason I did it like this is because, for the most part, especially in professional matches, there's only one champion, maybe 1.5. I'd say between 1 to 2 champions really get a ton of value out of the attack damage, and then between 1 to 2 champions get the full benefit of the ability power. So you're not really getting to this point where it's the times 5 gold value. So I would say on the 5 members of your team, it's probably between 6 to 7,000 gold. It's less than I thought it would be, I think, because think about it. Your AP carry in the mid lane is going to benefit from the AP. Your AD carry is going to benefit from the AD. If you have a tank jungler, they're not really going to benefit from AD or AP unless they have like huge ratios. It might help them a little bit, but it's not like completely changing how the champion functions. And top laners most of the time are tanks. Maybe they benefit a little bit from AD, but not a ton. It's just not the same thing. So I felt better giving 2 examples like this. And then here's the gold value, and then here's with Elder, here's with second Elder, and I'm gonna put this spreadsheet in the post. So if you're interested in looking at it, you can look at it there. And then I just explain that again. Next up, Ocean Drake. Ocean Drake, initially, no one liked it, but it feels really good in lane, so it's kind of like movement speed. It feels good to have, but it's difficult to quantify. In laning phase, it's going to keep you topped off, and it's going to heal you. It's going to restore mana and ability power equal to a percentage of your missing health and mana. So the first stack is 4%, then we have 8% and 12%. The gold value of those, in order to do that, I took champions at level 18 and just tried to find a fair number for most champions. So at level 18, most champions have 2,000 health and 1,000 mana. If you're going to take advantage of the Ocean Drake, then you need to be missing health and mana. So I just figured 50% just as a baseline. So you'd have 1,000 missing health, 500 missing mana, and the gold value is 3%. It's 3 gold per percent. Or wait, what is it? 3 gold. I forget. That's gonna get cut, hopefully. So I did something with health and mana here. I did the calculations before my class, and then I forget. But I know the process was good when I did it. Here are the gold values, so you can take a look at that. Maybe you can figure out what I did. I know that the gold value of health regen is 3 gold, and the mana regen is 5 gold. So maybe that's how I did it, with like how much mana and health it restores. So this number might even be a little high, but I think this is more in line with how players feel about it. So it's probably better than Cloud Drake, I'd say. But they're a lot closer than you would think otherwise, because people are like, oh yeah, Ocean Drake is good, it helps you stay in lane, but the gold value isn't as high as they think. Next up is Mountain Drake. Mountain Drake was really tough because 30% bonus true damage. I don't know how to quantify that at all. So what I thought to do was take the scenarios where that's useful against Baron and the towers. So this is just for a 30-minute Baron. At 30 minutes, Baron has 11,800 health, 120 armor, 70 magic resistance. Baron's effective health against physical damage is 25,960, and effective health against ability power or magic damage is 20,060. And this is caused by the damage multiplier, which is equal to 1 times the amount of armor over 100, and then that's just the number. So it comes out to 0.45, and this is 0.59. So when you're dealing physical damage to Baron, he's only taking 0.45%, or he's only taking 45% of the damage that you deal. And when you're dealing magic damage, it's 59%. When you're attacking a tower, you're always doing physical damage, I think. I don't think I'm making a mistake by saying that. Unless you're Ziggs. But that's just going to kill the tower anyways. So yeah, then you're doing 65% health. I mean, maybe that's probably not the right way to say it, because you can deal spell damage, but it's the same anyways. The armor and MR are the same, so it doesn't really matter. So that changes the effective health of a tower to 5,580. So if, like I was saying in the rankings part, if the Mountain Drake allows you to take an objective that you wouldn't be able to take otherwise, then it's worth it to get that dragon, and it's better than Ocean and Cloud. And I think that's true for the most part, because it makes you do it so much faster. Like, would you rather deal damage to a 26,000 health target or an 11,800 target? So what I did next is, if you are dealing 10,000 physical damage to Baron's health would be reduced to 7,300. That's doing 10,000 damage. With the 10% of true damage, it goes down to 6,300, so you're doing 1,000 more damage. With the 20% from the second stack, he would be at 5,300. With the third stack, he'd be down at 4,300. And if you have an Elder and the bonus is amplified, then it goes to 2,800. And that shows you how impactful it can be, because dealing the 10,000 damage from your kit is going to be the same regardless of whether or not you have Mountain Drake. But the additional damage, the bonus damage, is what you're really going to feel. And I think that it proves Mountain Drake is very good at helping you take those objectives, and those objectives have gold values too. So every tower you take increases the value of getting that Mountain Drake. Yep, that's my argument, at least. Let me know if you disagree. So Baron buff at 30 minutes gives you 35 AD and 59 ability power. That's where I got those numbers from. You just take the amount of AD and AP, multiply it by the gold value, and that's what you get. This is the value times 5 for you getting it on all your teammates, and it doesn't include the minions. So in order to give Baron buff a real value, you need to take into consideration how many towers you're going to get from the minions doing damage. And I think most games you should expect to get at least 2 towers, and if your team can't get 2 towers, then they did something wrong, or they all died after they got Baron. So then next up we have Elder Dragon. Elder Dragon's gold fluctuates depending on how many dragons you get. And that's the most surprising thing that I learned. Like, I think there was 1 or 2 games where I've experienced this, and I'm like, oh shit, we didn't have any dragons, and now we get 0 on-hit. So all we did was prevent the other team from getting the on-hit damage. But once you get 1 dragon under your belt, you get the 1,100 gold, which is really good. That's just as good as getting a Baron buff. The only problem is that Elder Dragon you can't get until the 35-minute mark. And by that time, Baron's going to be even stronger and give you a better buff. So I would say the 2 dragons is the threshold that you really want to hit in most games. I'm going to put out a video soon about trying to get 5 or 6 dragons in a game and why it could be such a good a good win condition to play around, because no one really does that right now. But you'll have to stay tuned and watch that video once I'm finished with it. And then empowered aspect of the dragon. I mean, most games are not going to have this as a part of it, but if your team is losing and you can stall the match out until the empowered Elder Drake comes out, and then you can somehow win a fight there, you should win the game. Just look at this. Look at these numbers. Like, if you have 2 dragons, your team is going to get 39,000 on-hit damage worth of gold. Or 39,000 gold worth of on-hit damage. And it's just crazy. It's true damage. Like, it's just absurd. I haven't experienced this in-game or noticed it, because a lot of the time when you take this, you had already won a team fight, and then you just run through their base, and it just destroys their base so fast because of the on-hit damage. But yeah, that's really all I have. Those are my numbers Let me know if you disagree with any of these numbers or like how I did the calculations. But yeah, I think Empowered Drake is crazy. Infernal is better than I thought it was, and Baron Buff's probably better than what I put in the rankings, but people want the rankings. So thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe.